Bed bugs. What should you do when you find them in your hotel room? I had no idea. And if you're watching this video because you just found them in your hotel room, then go to this timestamp, because after experiencing them myself recently on a trip, I'm here to arm you with a few practical steps that you need to do or that you should do to bring them home. So we recently encountered bed bugs when we were walking the Camino de Santiago, and for the whole duration we never had a single problem except on this last night when we arrived in Santiago de Compostela. To celebrate that we successfully walked almost 800 kilometers, we booked ourselves into a double room in one of the albergues that night, and it was probably the worst and shortest night that we had on this trip. It was really not much of a celebration. Anyways, it was around 3 o'clock in the morning, and what I learned later is that they like to come out later in the night, and I could not sleep, so I was lying in the bed on my belly, looking on my phone, and then suddenly I saw something crawling up the wall in front of me. And I do what I always like to do, I squished it, and then I turned on the light to see what I squished. Unfortunately, I woke up my husband and he asked what I'm doing, and I said, I think I just squished a bed bug. And he was like, oh my God, do you think I also have some? So he lifted up his pillow, and then there were already 3 bed bugs running around under his pillow. Well, they're not really running. I was really surprised on how slow they are. They were like the size of an apple seed, but when I looked on the wall, I could also see the other stages. When they're younger, then they're smaller and more transparent. So we really had everything in there. And in that moment, we were really not that worried about bites. We were really concerned that now they're in our things and in our luggage, and that we would bring them home with us, because it would really just need one pregnant female or a few eggs to really start a new population somewhere else. So in today's video, I wanted to share with you a few practical steps that we did to prevent bringing them home. And I like to believe that we were successful. At least I have not noticed any more bed bugs since then. And also I'm going to share some tips on how to check a room for bed bugs, because I honestly was very lazy and never really did that. It was the first time after all these years of traveling that we ever encountered bed bugs, so I guess I was a little bit lazy in that regard. But if I would have looked closely, there would definitely have been signs in that room. But now, what should one do when you actually find them in your hotel room? When we found them in our room, after a short moment of panic, I like to think we acted quite quickly. Unfortunately, they were all over, so they were on the beds, on the sheets, on the blankets, on the walls, behind the headboards. There were bugs crawling around everywhere. So we quickly tried to pack up our things, and we tried to shake out the stuff we had on the bed, like our sleeping bags. And then both of us went to have a quick shower, and I also took some pictures of the room just to document what happened. Afterwards, we took all our things and went to the reception because we wanted to report it, but unfortunately nobody was there. So we decided to go ahead and treat our things immediately. From the research that I did that night, there's 2 things that kill bed bugs. The first one would be to freeze our things for a few days, which is really not suitable when you're in the middle of traveling. And the second thing would be exposure to heat. The albergue that we stayed at had a laundromat in the basement, so we decided to go there. And since it was 4 a.m. for the first time, there were no lines. So we carefully unpacked everything again and put everything that could handle the heat into the dryer. The internet said that it would need at least 1 hour, so we did 2 of the 45-minute cycles on the hottest temperature. And in the meantime, we searched the rest of our things. So we checked the bags, the zippers, all the outside compartments, the inside compartments. We turned everything inside out and wiped it out with some disinfectant wipes. And once we were done with that, the dryer also was done, and we packed up our things. And by the time the receptionist was there, so we reported what happened, we showed them some pictures, and we asked for a refund for that night, which they also gave us. The whole next day, apart from being extremely tired and grumpy, we were both very worried that these things are still crawling around in our bags everywhere. But we were lucky that for the next few days we had rented an apartment that had a balcony. So we went to the next supermarket and bought some big black trash bags And back in the apartment, we just unpacked the most sensitive things that would not be able to take the heat. And then we just wrapped our whole bags into the black trash bags and put them on the balcony in the sunlight. So we read that bed bugs and their eggs die at 49 degrees, which is 120 Fahrenheit. And the internet said also that the black trash bag, when you position it directly into the sun, would get 54 degrees, which is 130 Fahrenheit. So we figured it's worth a try. And in the evening, we unpacked all our things and we really checked every little nook and cranny of the bags again. We took all our laundry again and washed it in the washing machine that we had in the apartment. And after that, we did not encounter any more bed bugs. But obviously we stayed alert for the next few days. And when we returned back home to Austria, about a week later, we also unpacked everything outside. You could also do it in a bathtub if you don't have a balcony or a garden. And we just left our backpacks outside in the balcony in the sun for a few more days. So that was it. And as I said, I think we were successful. So now let's talk about the bites. And we both were very lucky that we did not get any bites. Honestly, judging from the amount of people that were walking on the Camino de Santiago and the stains that I left on the wall when I squished the bed bugs, they already looked like they had quite a feast recently. But I also read that not everybody reacts to them, and sometimes it can also take a few days for the reactions to show. So that's why I always, when I read a review somewhere that someone had bed bug bites, I always take it with a grain of salt, because it's not clear that he was really bitten that night or that it was even a bed bug at all. So unless they can confirm that they actually saw that, I always take it with a grain of salt. Because many times there's lots of other animals that are the culprits. But nonetheless, doesn't matter if it's a mosquito or a bed bug, the bites really are extremely annoying. And I'm someone who's a little bit allergic, so I always get those huge bumps and they itch like crazy. So that's why I usually always travel with my bite away. It's a small stick that I plug into my phone, then I start the app and I can heat up and then I can apply heat to the bite. And that helps me a lot with the itch. So I would assume that something like this would also help a lot with bed bug bites. Something like this would help with bed bug bites. And otherwise, every pharmacy should carry some medicine that will give you some relief. So next, let's talk about how to prevent getting into this situation and how to search for bed bugs or traces of bed bugs in a room. I believe that the fear of bed bugs should not stop you from any adventure. Just be proactive and smart about it. Smarter than I was, definitely. Because in hindsight, there were some signs in that room, and if I would have just properly checked, I would have probably noticed them and we could have switched the room earlier and prevent this sleepless night. So here in this picture, you can see the outlet that was in the head of my bed. And as you can see, there's lots of black dots around it. And that's basically what we're looking for. That's the bed bug poop. Bed bug poop. Getting good in this. As far as my research showed, bed bugs like to hide in dark spaces, in nooks and crannies during the day and come out at night. But if they're extremely hungry, they may even come out during the day. And they prefer to hide in the area where their victims are sleeping. So the most obvious place is the bed itself. So make sure that you strip the bed sheets and just look on the mattress very closely if you see lots of black dots somewhere. Also lift up the mattress and check underneath. But then also make sure you check all the areas around the bed. The nightstand, behind the nightstand, the outlet, like in my case, the headboard, the pillows, the extra blankets in the room, they can be hiding everywhere. If you find any traces, then make sure to go to the reception and tell them your concerns and ask them if it's possible to switch the rooms. But generally speaking, to prevent that you bring bed bugs with you, try to keep your things away from the bed. And I'm half guilty of that. I never put my backpack on the bed, for example, because I think it's already all dirty from the travel days. But all my things I regularly would put on the bed. But ideally try to keep things as far away from the bed or possible bed bug hiding places as possible. Some people online even suggested that you should put your bags into the bathroom because obviously there are less hiding places for the bedbugs. But the general recommendation is really to just put your things as far away from the bed as possible and don't unpack everything. One thing that we did not have that from now on I will bring with me on my trips is to bring a big sealable bag so that you couldn't put all your things inside and seal them up so that at least you are not spreading them around any further. And another practice that I will adopt for the future, doesn't matter if I see bed bugs or not, is when I come home that I will unpack my things either outside or in a room where I have a floor in a light color or even in the bathtub. So just in case there was something in my bag and I would unpack, I would see it. And ideally put all your clothes immediately from the bag into the washing machine. Don't like put the pile here, a pile there, and then wash it a week later. Do it immediately. And consider freezing the things that you cannot wash for a few days, just to be sure that there's no eggs and no bed bugs inside. From what I read, treating all your things with harsh chemicals is not really helping too much because it has no effect on the eggs. So yeah, that was our fantastic bed bug adventure. At least it was another good lesson learned on the road, I would say. But honestly, I think apart from bringing them home, which would be very unfortunate because as far as I understand, they're very difficult to get rid of, I think we don't need to be too worried about bed bugs. They don't transmit any diseases as far as I understood. They're really not a sign that the place you're staying at is not clean because they can happen in 5-star hotels and in mountain huts everywhere. As far as I understand, even in buses and trains and movie theaters, so they can be really everywhere. So I wish you the best of luck that you never encounter them. And if you did, let me know in the comments below how you solved the problem. I'm always curious to hear that, and I'm sure it will help lots of other travelers as well. Now, if you feel sorry for me for that terrible adventure that I had with my bed bugs, then you should totally subscribe to my monthly newsletter to make me happy. The link is in the description. Consider also subscribing to my channel. And other than that, thanks for watching and I see you in the next video. Bye!